Creating simple business forms is often drudgery, the kind of job that administrators look forward to because they know it's going to make their jobs easier. Designers, not so much. But Adobe InDesign CS6 contains new features that make it much easier to create attractive, useful forms. Whether you're building them from Microsoft Word documents that were provided by someone else, or you're creating them from scratch yourself. This chapter of our Total Training InDesign CS6 Essentials course covers how Adobe InDesign CS6's new Forms Creations features can make that task much easier on you if you find yourself creating printed business forms. In this chapter of our InDesign CS6 course, we're going to work with some of the sophisticated type alignment capabilities that are built into Adobe InDesign, as well as explore the capabilities to build sophisticated tables within the program, as well as save table styles for the ones we like that we can use in subsequent InDesign documents. We're going to do that by creating a single page student order form for Total Training. So if you have your welcome screen open on screen just like I have right now, you can click the Create New Document button to create a brand new document. If you don't have this up, simply use the keyboard shortcut Control-N to create a new document within the Windows PC environment, which is what we're using for this chapter of the InDesign course. Or if you're working on a Mac, use the keyboard shortcut Command-N. I'm going to click on the Create New Document button, and what it'll do is it'll open up our New Document dialog box. This shows the default settings, creating a letter, 8.5 by 11 inch page in a portrait or vertical format, and it shows margins of 1/2 inch all the way around. We can work with this default setting with a single exception. Since we only have a single page document, we're going to turn off the Facing Pages option. Depending on your screen resolution and setup, you may find that this makes your page just a little bit larger as you're working on the screen. I'm going to say OK, and as I do though, we're going to create our brand new InDesign document. Now we don't want to lose our work, so what we're going to do is we're going to save this file before we begin. I'm going to go to the File pull-down menu, and I'm going to select the Save menu command. You'll see that the keyboard shortcut is listed to the right as Control-S. If you're working on a Mac, that keyboard shortcut would be Command-S. I'm going to click that command. And what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to save this in the Chapter 8 folder as my first name, Randy, and the number 8. You don't have to use my name as you save it, but you should use something with your first name and that number 8 so we can say this is the working file we're using for this chapter of the InDesign CS6 course. I'm going to click the Save button, and I'll see that's listed right up there in my tab, and that we're ready to begin. We're going to place some text that we're going to use for formatting and showing how we can align text for forms as we're building those in InDesign documents. So I'm going to go to the File pull-down menu, and I'm going to select the Place command. Keyboard shortcut is Control-D if you're working on a Windows PC, Command-D if you're doing this on a Mac. I'm going to go to that Chapter 8 folder, and what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to double-click on the Student Contact Info Rich Text Format file. Before you double-click on it, though, make sure that the Show Import Options checkbox is not selected. And when I do so, you'll see that my cursor changes into a place gun, and that I can actually see the text that's loaded inside of that. Place that corner of that place gun in the upper left-hand margin of your InDesign document page and click the mouse button to place it on screen. This is the text that we're going to put at the top of our student order form. Let's begin formatting that. I'm going to get my text tool, and as I do that, I'm going to click 1, 2, 3 times to highlight the entire line, and I'm going to take that text and I'm going to make it minion bold. I'm going to set that type as 36 points. on 36-point leading or flat leading, and I want to center that on the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the paragraph formatting controls in my control panel, and I'm simply going to click on the Align Center button to put that smack in the center of my screen. Let's go back to the character formatting controls in our control panel. Select it, and we're going to highlight the text that goes below. So I'm going to hold the mouse button down just to the right of that word email in the third line of type that we haven't formatted yet. And I'm going to move my cursor up and to the left so it goes to the start of the first line where it says name in that type that we want to format. Now with that all highlighted, we're going to change that type to 14 points. Just make it a little bit larger. And we're going to change the leading from the auto leading value of 16.8 for default. We're going to actually make that 30-point type. And as we do so, that'll give us extra room so respondents can actually write in that information on the page. Now you don't see that right here, but we have a series of tabs that are loaded in. If you want to see what those tabs are, all you have to do is go to the Type pull-down menu and select Show Hidden Characters. And what that'll do is that'll allow us to see that we've got information in there for where the tabs are lined up for this document. I'm going to highlight all my type again, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to blow this up on the page so I can see all of this text at a large size with a little bit of extra room for the margins. I'm going to bring this up to 150% size. And then I'm going to center this page on the screen. So I moved it over to the right so I could see from margin to margin with a little bit of extra area. And I'm going to move it on the scroll bar just a little bit so that text is smack on the center of the page. This is important because it allows me to set up my tab ruler with the most detail so I can do very precise work as I'm working on the page. I'm going to go to the Type pull-down menu once again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the Tabs menu command. Keyboard shortcut for that on a Windows PC is Control-Shift-T. If you're working on a Mac, that keyboard shortcut would be Command-Shift-T. I'm going to select that, and as I do, it's going to place the tab ruler across the screen. And this shows why it's important to set up that page so you can see all the way across the column. Whether in this case is it fills the entire margin area on a single page document, or if you're working with, say, a 3-column format for a newsletter or magazine, so you can see that all the way across that narrow column as you're setting up your tabs. It allows me to see my alignment for the left side margin and the right side margin, just as I would if I was working in a word processing program like, say Microsoft Word. And in fact, if you've done this type of work working with a word processing program, a lot of the analogies here are going to be very similar. And you'll get up to speed to this rather quickly. Now, I want to know where the center of the page is. Remember, we created an 8.5 by 11 letter-sized page to create our sample student order form. I'm going to go to the vertical ruler over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a vertical ruler guide at 4¼ inches, or smack down the center of the page. Now you'll notice as I look at the tab ruler, that actually shows a slightly different measure. That in fact it looks like it's at 3¾ inches, and that's correct as well. The reason for that is because we set a 1/2 inch margin over here and a 1/2 inch margin over here. So the horizontal ruler shows where that measurement is as we're dealing with the page sheet size that we created in our InDesign document. The measurement that we see here on the ruler for our tabs deals with the width of the column that we've created, which in this case is actually 7.5 inches. So what we're going to do next is we're going to set up tabs. That's what these little double chevrons that point to the right indicate. We're going to set up tabs so we can set up underlines to go after each of these fields: name, address, city, state, zip code, phone, and email. So with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my first tab. Now we have a series of these here, and again, if you've worked with word processing programs, there are no surprises here. The first tab is what's known as a left justified tab. That means the text goes off to the right. We have a center justified tab, which means that whatever text we have would be centered wherever we place that individual tab. We have a right justified tab, which means the text would go off to the left. And the indicator you have that lets you know which way the type's going to go is where this little tail is on the tab over here and the tab over here. We also have a decimal align tab. And what this does is this actually allows us to line up numbers on a decimal figure. So if you're building tabular information with figures, everything lines up the way you'd like them to be.